Welcome everybody. We're coming to you. This is Davos 2026 at Davos Lodge again. We've got Greg Reitman, Blue Water Film Festival, Blue Water Institute, Blue Water Films. I joke about being from LA that some people are slashers, writer, producer. You know, Greg has done all of these. We're going to start on some background, how you got into movies and films. I know you didn't think we were going to start there, but I want to start there because you've done some great films through the years and they're always environmental and trendy and messaging. But talk to us about how you got started and what motivated you to get into movies and films to begin with.
Well, first off, thank you, Irene, and the Davos Lodge for including the Blue Water Institute. And thank you, Stephen, for making all this happen. I was working in tech for 5 years and super successful, and woke up and really realized that I wanted to make movies and make content. And so I went to school at UCLA at night and met a couple of colleagues, took a camera and Bill and Tommy, and went off to Catalina Island and started there. We started making our first documentary about the Wrigley family.
So was your first documentary that or Catalina?
Catalina Island. It was called Hollywood's Magical Island, and it profiled William Wrigley Jr. and how he bought this island in 1919, sight unseen, for $2 million, and then transformed it into what is today what became the Playground of the Stars.
And for not everybody knows, especially that's an international audience here, what is Catalina Island and where is it? You and I are from LA, so when you say that, we invariably know, but not everybody else does.
Yeah, so Catalina Island is 26 miles off the coast of California, and he was really integral. I mean, at that time, there were no airplanes, so he bought two steamers, the SS Catalina and the SS Avalon, and for $1 a day, people would go and dance to this. He built this majestic casino ballroom, which was the first theater ever built for acoustic sound in the world, and really parlayed the entertainment industry. He was intricately connected with the studios who eventually used Catalina as their backdrop to make films with some of the most famous, iconic actors, John Wayne, Humphrey Bogart, Natalie Wood, you name it, they all went to Catalina.
And Catalina, still to this day, people go out there, they take the ferry, the boat, beautiful things. So it's been ongoing for how many years?
It's almost 25 years. And we're really lucky. It was narrated by Peter Coyote, who has a legendary voice. And now today, if you go to Catalina and you go to the theater, they play the film every day. Which
has enabled you for 20 plus years of royalties?
Well, we didn't get the royalties from the beginning, but I would say post-COVID, the last 3 years, it's been playing on Catalina, yeah.
And so that was the first one, and then talk to us about some of the next ones that came up. The first one I know about is Fuel.
Yes, so it was very iconic at the time. We were showcasing our film in Temecula. It was our world premiere, and my partner at the time was head of marketing at Fender Guitar, which was in Corona, which was pretty much adjacent to Temecula. And we showcased there, and this is where I met Josh Tickell, and he had his short film, The Veggie Van Voyage. And Josh was very an eclectic human being who was the first person to ever convert a diesel wagon and run it on biofuel. And he handed me, a piece of biodiesel, and it was there where that conversation began, and that led me for 4 years to make that documentary, which eventually went on to win the Audience Award at Sundance.
Yeah, and again, I like for the audience, we don't always know and understand the words. I do because I'm around this, but you threw it out like, oh, no big deal. He created biofuel. Fuel was about non-gasoline fuel, and it was vegetable oil. It was some crazy stuff they were doing.
It was iconic. I mean, it was basically, looking at the world's addiction to oil and looking at alternative energy. So this is really like the beginning blueprint of algae, hydrogen, biofuels, ethanol, and really looking at the whole spectrum of energy, and really understanding where the world's at in terms of peak oil, which most people don't understand, that those oil fields will not last forever, and looking at alternative energy. And so this really was the catalyst. And it was really an incredible journey. I mean, going to being at Sundance was one thing, getting in, but just watching the people and how nostalgic they were. And I think the most interesting point was we'd have like, say, 500 or 1,000 people in the theater. And we would watch women in particular who had large SUVs within a 48-hour time period sell their cars and then buy an electric car. So all of a sudden, Toyota stock was like going really high, and we were showing the film. We had $1 million P&A. We were showcasing it around the country, and we noticed we had a 50% turnover. People changing out their cars because that's how people were able to connect the dots in terms of their fuel.
And Sundance and Fuel was how long ago? 12?
That
13,
was in
14?
2008.
Yeah, 2008. And did it win? What?
It won the Audience Award at Sundance, and then won a number of other awards, and really was the catalyst, which you always love to talk about, my next film, which was Rooted in Peace. Yeah.
Yeah, and for some reason, Rooted in Peace is one of my favorite. I don't know why every time we introduce Greg, he doesn't want to talk about it, but we're here at Davos talking about world peace. So let's go with Rooted in Peace, then we'll move to the current one, and then we'll do the film festival.
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about crypto too, which is obviously blockchain is very hot here in Davos. Yeah, I mean, Rooted in Peace really was, an existential film asking why is the world so violent and why we don't connect with nature. I was really, I grew up in New York. At a very young age, I went into my grandfather's taking me to the Statue of Liberty, and I really understood, or embodied the word freedom. And one day I was coming through JFK Airport, and I wouldn't say I got abducted, but I got patted down for drinking bottled water. And it was like post 9/11. I was like, what's happening with our country? Why am I like, I almost had this argument with this security agent, the TSA agent. He's like, look, if you don't leave your bottled water, we're going to take you away. And I was like, okay, here's the water. And at that moment, I realized that America had changed. It was no longer the country that I grew up in, and it had lost a certain sensibility. And it really sparked me to want to make this content. And at that time, after making Fuel, I felt I was sort of invincible. And I think this particular film really was a much deeper look, a more existential look at looking at violence, looking at war, looking at the environment and how we treat the environment. And then more importantly, how we treat ourselves and the kind of food that we're putting in our bodies. And really what I came out of it, which is really cool, Stephen, was this idea of Einstein had E equals MC squared. And my epiphany was H to the third power, which really meant was a healthy mind, a healthy heart, a healthy body equals a healthy world.
Yeah. And we're going to, again, we have a little extra time. We're going to do a tangent, segue, sharp angle into the healthy side. One of my favorite people that I've fortunately known for years, I read one of his books early on, which was Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. And you didn't talk about the people you interviewed in there, with Deepak being one of the people. So talk about some of the cast and Deepak and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was really an incredible journey. I mean, I ended up meeting a Tibetan by the name of Romeo Thresha, who introduced me to two iconic individuals. One, Donovan, who played with the Beatles, and the latter, Deepak Chopra. And Deepak really was, at that time, was really a pivotal character in the film. And, I think our interview was maybe 30 or 40 minutes. I had 4 questions, and I said, okay, we're done. And he really had laid out the whole journey for me that I was about to take on, which if you watch the film, you understand. And really what he really helped me connect was that, peace really begins with yourself. That if you want to transform the world, you have to transform yourself. And that, for me, I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand I wasn't meditating. I didn't understand transcendental meditation. I never met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, which was his best friend at the time. And then obviously it also led to interview other great individuals like David Lynch, Mike Love of the Beach Boys, Ted Turner. I also interviewed Nobel Peace Laureate Marita McGuire. And what I think what's really cool about all of these particular characters is they all have a story. And they're all, pivotal, integral people that are dealing on the world stage. And they all in a very unique way, felt very connected to the subject. And also the people we also know, William McDonough was in the film, Dr. Mark Hyman, Gene Owing, the former president of Costa Rica, Jose Marie Figueres. But each of them, you know, if when you look at the film, you'll understand that you would never know that from the outside, but when they actually sat with me, they were deeply disturbed by what was also happening in the world and wanting to share their story. And I think that's what really makes it a very compelling film.
And then we'll move to the last one. Blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin, and there's an arc and a theme here that will lead us into the current activities.
Yeah, I mean, crypto came out of nowhere. You know, I was teaching at NYU Tisch as a former professor, teaching film marketing distribution. And at that particular point, I was transcending from being a nonfiction producer to being a fiction producer. And I had the opportunity to meet Sienna Oberman, who's a really amazing producer, who was very young at the time. And she was like, oh, I got a bunch of packages. And I said, okay. And I looked at the different ones. And then one came across my desk, and it was Crypto, starring Kurt Russell. And it was a great story. It was a Russian spy thriller. And we ended up getting involved in that particular film. And it went out via Lionsgate.
Perfect. And so the arc that we're noticing here are things that are not necessarily environmental, but world, peace, environment, changing the world, participation, which leads us to Blue Water. Talk to us about Blue Water, and either start with the Institute or the film festival. I'll let you pick.
I mean, I'll start with the Marble, actually. You know, I was thinking about it this morning about, like, you know, what is it about the Blue Water Institute, and why do I do, and what's our purpose? And really, when I think about it, is I think about this particular blue marble, and I think of it as a reflection of our home. You know, we all love our whales and our turtles and our water, but here, when we actually think about it and we hold it in our hand, it becomes a much different part of it. We're part of this place. And really what the Blue Water Institute is, it's really about accountability, true costs, and really curating the next generation of filmmakers and providing a place for them to showcase their content in a beautiful place in La Jolla, San Diego.
And again, we've jumped lanes, and I'll unpack it. The La Jolla Film Festival is the Blue Water
Film Festival. Correct.
So let's just talk there. It's an amazing film, hundreds of submissions from around the world. It's the true film festival focused on environmental positivity and change.
Yeah, so we curate 30 films from around the world, Italy, Germany, Japan, Australia. We focus in 4 areas, features, shorts, animation, documentaries, with a through line that's focused on ocean, water, nature, and indigenous. We think indigenous is really important because of indigenous knowledge that's shared and encapsulated, and then is obviously shown in a cinematic way.
And then the Institute, how does the Institute tie in and support the film festival?
So the Institute is a nonprofit cultural arts organization that essentially becomes the conduit for accepting foundations, corporate donations, that collects the money that enables the Blue Water Film Festival to produce the festival.
And worldwide, how many submissions have you been getting? What do you anticipate getting? Because that's going to transition us into an economic part of the conversation, since we are at WEF Davos.
Yeah, I mean, we've had tremendous growth. I mean, every year it's 2x. It started with 50, 100, 150, 200, 300 submissions a year. We also know that will eventually get to thousands of submissions as we continue to grow and get out in the marketplace. And we've done things at the Cannes Film Festival, at Venice Film Festival. We popped up at TIFF. I think what's unique about the film festival in itself is just the companies and brands that align with the vision of Blue Water. You'll notice, on our corporate partnership page, companies like Hewlett Packard, LaCroix, Canon, Image Prograph, Black Lion. They all sort of have an underlying theme that they care about the environment. They have an ethics, a code, and they understand the value of water and our planet.
And so when you talk about the brands, let's have a little economic part of the conversation. The brands are interested in the content. The content is supportive of an audience. How big is the audience? Like, what would you define as the audience in terms of size, age, demographics for the content of what Blue Water really focuses on?
Well, that's a great question, Stephen. I mean, I think like what we, it started out, post-COVID where everything was online and we had about 20,000 people, watching our content when we first started. Now we're in theaters and we roll up to 200, 500, and then some very intimate 80 and smaller houses. We also do a bunch of workshops, like our festival dates are March 19th to the 22nd, which always ties in with World Water Day, which is on March 22nd. We also, as a festival, give out about $30,000 in prizes. And the demographic, I would say, is really, we're trying to skew to a younger demographic, more in the sports area. One of the themes of the festival is called Athletes for the Oceans, which really is a different way to look at Blue Water. You're really looking at iconic people in sports and looking at how their impact is for the environment. And so we're really curating those type of sports people to come out, which we feel skews to a younger demographic.
And I'm going to ask one question about the film festival, and again, we'll bridge to that. When is the next film festival? How does somebody get involved? How do they participate? How do they sponsor? How do they submit?
Great questions. So the festival dates are March 19th to the 22nd, 2026. It's based in La Jolla in San Diego. You can go online to www.bwff.net, or you can go www.bluewaterfilmfestival.org. You can scroll down, you'll see passes. You can click on a pass. That will give you full access or entry, or you can go on the schedule and you can select the films that you want to see, or you can go to the Blue Water Award Show or the Farm to Table or other special events.
And sponsors as well.
Sponsors as well. I mean, if you go down, you'll notice there's a section called How to Get Involved. And I would also say, in terms of our film festival, we're pretty much very selective. Like, not every company is a fit. In some cases, we just say no. So we really, the brands that we're looking for are the ones that really have a deeper connection, or B Corps, or, have an affinity to the ocean and to water and to nature.
And so let's project forward now. Films are great, film festivals, all of that. That's sort of content of the past. Moving forward, I know you're working on something exciting, and all of your years of this have built up to the opportunity with the channel. So talk to us about what's coming next, what you're working on, the platform, the channel, the content.
Another great question. I love you, Stephen. Yeah, I know. So, we started out, as a production company being Blue Water. We then transformed into a film festival. We also have a distribution company where we've sold content under the banner of Blue Water Content. We have understood, we've done some AI or diagnostic research and have found that about 135 million people watch an environmental film per week on Netflix. It's a staggering data point. And really what it's transitioned us to realize is that there's a much larger audience that actually cares about this issue. And so now we have put together a package while we're here in Davos for Blue Water Plus. So the idea now is to have a streaming channel. We understand that the content is already coming to the film festival. We're really in a preferred position. A lot of it are world premieres, international premieres coming around the world. And really what we've come to understand is it's all about taste. And people love the turtles, they love the whales. There's a reason why Nat Geo has been around for so long. And so we hope that Blue Water Plus will have the same sort of brand recognition and will also find its home, on the different networks around the world.
And so for somebody that doesn't understand the streaming, the channels, what would you describe? How would you describe Blue Water Plus? Because you could compare it to Netflix, but it's not. It's more of a channel of confined content specific to the genres you're going after.
Correct. So, Blue Water Plus really is a home for environmental content, whether it's, the natural world, natural history, It's the same sort of content that we're curating at the festival, and then just finding a larger home, on the channel. What's really interesting is with the consolidation of the studios with Warner Brothers and Paramount, and all of the different imprints being CNN Plus, Discovery Channel, Discovery Plus. In this consolidation, what's occurred is a lot of the content has gotten lost. And so now you have large amounts of large conglomerates with a roster of, say, 10,000 titles on their channel, and it's all getting lost. So we think it's actually the other way around, where the niche is actually going to become the preferred, and that people are actually going to seek out this type of content.
Yeah, and that content discovery is really a challenge now because there's so much information out there. And again, I'm pedantic on wording, depends on what the definition of is. And you said one thing that not everybody would understand, and I'm going to ask you to not only explain it, but to give some specific examples. Great audience, we don't know who's out there watching on the live stream. You said the content needs a home.
Yeah.
Define home, and where would you like that home to be?
Yeah, so the home, obviously we want it to be Blue Water Plus, but in reality is you'll see films like, for example, Orca Black, White, and Gold. That film, had a very hard festival life. It won a Jackson Hole Award and then didn't play. And then came to Blue Water, it won the Grand Jury Award, it won the Eco Impact Award, and then it went out to about 100 film festivals around the world, and still had a very hard time in terms of finding a channel and finding a network for that particular content. So what we have found is that the studios have become very ownership IP driven. Unless they're producing the content, then it goes on their network. And in terms of the acquisition life, it's becoming harder and harder and harder for premium content that's being independently produced to go on, say, Paramount Plus or Hulu or Netflix or another streaming channel. So what we feel is that there's a plethora of content out there, and this is where we feel is the niche where Blue Water Plus serves.
And again, I'm going to ask you a more simplistic question to get us to a targeted answer. Where would you like that home to be? And I'm pressing you because you and I have spoken about it. Hotels, a core group, Carnival, cruise. Like, give me some specifics so people can go, oh, I want to help Greg. Greg wants to be in hotels. I know the hotel guy.
Yeah, so we want Blue Water Plus to be on airlines. We want it to be in cruises. We want it to be in hotels. We want it to become part of your a part of your daily habit of where you find your content. It shouldn't be hard to find this content. We want to make it more accessible and more mainstream and more consumer oriented.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to is a Qatar Airlines, a United, a Riyadh. Those are places where we've all seen the screens. That's where you'd like your channel to live, in a hotel or on the screens in the airlines.
Yeah, so when you come into, say, like a Marriott, you'll notice there's movies. It's your typical horror thrillers, where is your eco content? We want Blue Water Plus to be there. We feel that when families are going on vacations and they have little kids, this is the type of content that they should be seeing. And I think it really comes back to this. It's really about our home and how much we respect our home. And I think what's unique about this is the more that we can identify with our blue planet and realize how precious this is and understand the cost of this and get our kids to see this content, I think that's where transformation begins. And
so, again, I'll have to span and bridge the gap between conservatism and capitalism. You talked about making money, and we're not going to say, oh, this is all about making money. It's about making a difference and an impact. But describe, because you are in an investment round now, you're looking for capital. Describe how a channel makes money, because it's a different kind of distribution. It's not traditional film and you threw P&A out there, print and advertising, where not everybody would know. Talk about how a streaming channel makes money, how it benefits the industry, how it benefits the investor.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's occurring is there's a plethora of fast channels that are out there that are very niche oriented and are finding audiences. What's unique about our value proposition is there's very few that are actually serving this market. And we feel that this is our unique value proposition, that we as a film festival have already become premium, and the idea of being able to find that content and to serve that market. And I think what's unique about this is really about taste, and we call it genomes. When you look and survey different people, and this is what's cool about AI, is that you can accelerate and really find those tastes and those genomes, and then you can have the content then become the vehicle for that consumer audience.
Good. And so let's wrap up with a few things. Film, content, distribution, digital, looking for a home on airlines, cruises, hotels. What do you like to leave the audience with that we maybe didn't cover with either the film festival, the institute, the digital plus channel? Let's wrap up with anything you'd like to share with the audience that maybe we did not cover.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, look, it's been a great, conversation. I think what's important is for us to understand that we each make a difference and our dollars have purpose. And we might not think of this as an individual, but as a collective, our collective voice has a huge, huge impact in what we can do and what we can achieve. And so what's exciting about the Blue Water Institute and the Blue Water Film Festival is we have seen the power of film and cinema and how it's parlayed around the world and what it's caused in terms of the ripple. And so I hope what people leave today is they realize that this home has value. And if we don't actually take time to really think about it, it might not be what we want for tomorrow. So I really hope that when people think about Blue Water and they think of the festival and they think of the Institute, is they realize that they can make a difference. And it's really about making a choice.
Perfect. And so again, let everybody know how to get in touch with you. Blue Water Film Festival, Blue Water Institute, Blue Water Plus. What's the best way to get a hold of Greg Reitman?
I would say, you can always email me at greg@bluewatercompany.com, but really the best way is go to bwff.net, bluewaterfilmfestival.org. There's always a contact button. And, if this is something that resonates to you, if you're interested in the channel, if you're interested in your home, your blue planet, get in touch.
Perfect. All right, Greg Reitman, Stephen Meade, thank you, Irene. Thank you, Davos Lodge, Davos 2026. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you, Steve. You're a rock star.